So hi and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Finalmouse Ultralight Cape Town here. This is the version 2, this is a smaller version of the Finalmouse that you've seen for the Air 58, Sunset and Phantom, as the latest release here from Finalmouse. So Finalmouse have made a few changes here. They've changed the scroll wheel, they've changed the material it's made from to make it lighter, they've shrunk the size of it, they've provided something called infinity skins here to allow you to adjust the dimensions of this mouse to try and fit it better in your hand. And they've certainly increased the price of this mouse here. So if you're wondering what all this gear is, well, we've got a 1000 FPS camera here to do latency tests in CSGO and Rainbow Six for movement, button fire, things like that. We've got some scales to ensure the vendors here are telling us the true statistics of weight. Force gauge meter here to measure the force of the button actuation and how well it glides across a mouse pad. We've got a caliper here so you understand every dimension of the mouse, because we do all the kind of things like button measurements as well as all the different side measurements here, so you get really good understanding if this mouse is going to fit you or not. So you want to go back and check all these statistics. We've got a beardedbob.com website, there's loads of graphs on there, I'm continuously updating it. Again, I'm trying to get there at the moment, it takes me a bit of time, but we are getting there. There's a mouse search function, there's a voting function so you can prioritize which videos I'm going to do or help me do that, and that will allow me then to pick which ones to go for as well going forward. So let's go on the review here. Well, the price here, this comes in at $120 US, which is expensive. It's certainly at the price of a G Pro wireless. That's kind of the top price range. I think the only mice that are a bit dearer than that are the Rat from Mad Catz and the M1K we've done recently as well after the Kickstarter. So $120 US, we can expect a lot here in this test. If you do want one of these, they've just released the last batch of these now. This is a limited run, so check them out online because they're only going to go up in value, I expect. So what's this mouse for? Well, you can use it for a claw grip, a palm grip, or a fingertip grip really. It's up to you. It fits all sizes here. It's an ambidextrous shape, but it's only got buttons on the left-hand side. Predominantly used for FPS, this mouse. It's not really an MMO mouse due to the button configuration, but there's no reason why it couldn't be. So this cream color that it comes in is the only color that this is available in, with these orange accents on the scroll wheel and the cable here. I'm not really a fan of this cream look. I think it's going to get dirty very easily. And it's a shame they've not done any other versions here, but they are trying to use this material to keep the weight down. It's a smooth texture here on this mouse, there's no coating on it whatsoever, and for me it wasn't very slippy, but I could see there's been a bit of an issue with people perhaps who've got slightly wet hands here, although the holes here from the honeycomb design do provide a little bit more grip than a standard flat-sided mouse. I'm not going to go over the shape here because it's exactly the same as the Air 58 and the Sunset. I'll put links in the description to these videos. We'll go into a bit more detail about the shape, and any other detail I mentioned here with links will also go into the description. So one of the unique features they're trying to sell here with the Finalmouse Cape Town here is the ability to add infinity skins, and they provide you with 3 packs as default here in the packaging. These infinity skins are able to be stuck on the side of the mouse, on the palm, the top, and each side, and allow you to adjust the dimensions. So the 3 packs, you've got a pack that are 1.2mm for the sides, 1.2mm for the palm, and 1mm for the top. The second pack is 2mm for the sides, 2mm for the palm, 1mm for the top. And the final pack is 2.5mm for the side, 2.5mm for the palm, and 1mm for the top again. It's a bit of a shame here that the top are all 1mm, but you could stack them on top. The one thing that I do not like about this Finalmouse is the infinity skins, though. They are not very well implemented. I like the idea of it, but these do not fit well to the mouse. They don't fold around the mouse properly, and they end up just sticking up and looking horrible. For me, this was not a very well thought out idea here, these infinity skins. And if I was going to do this myself, I'd probably use something like lizard skin, which I can mold a little bit better to the mouse, and I can contour it better, which is where Finalmouse really should have improved these infinity skins, in my opinion, especially given this price of this mouse. So the button configuration, it's got left and right mouse buttons, it's got a DPI button on the top, which was a bit of a shame, would be nice to have on the bottom, but that's the Finalmouse design, and it has 2 side buttons. It's also got scroll press down, hasn't got left and right scroll functionality here for buttons. The mouse also has a 4-skate combo here, but the skates are not rounded. So in the glide test, we'll see whether that causes a problem in the glide here, but in general play here, these do tend to catch on a cloth surface. So the shape here in my hand, I've got an 18 by 9 centimeter hand, and I've also shown it in my girlfriend's hand, which is 16 by 7.2 centimeters. I use a 1-2-2 grip, and in my hand, I found that my finger next to my little finger was not resting in the right position here. It was kind of on the top half of the right hand button here, and this didn't work for me. But my girlfriend did tell me that this fits her hand really well, and she really liked this mouse, and it's certainly one of her favorite out of the mice that I've got here for her to test and use that she does on a daily basis. The build quality here, well, it's pretty good here. One thing I have found is it does have a weak side here, which the Air 58 didn't have. So it must be something down to them trying to reduce the weight here. Again, you're going to get RSI if you try and make this activate, but it does activate if you really press it. One of the things they have changed here is the scroll wheel. I know on the Air 58 and the other version like the Phantom and Sunset, the OEM scroll wheel they were using was snapping all the time. It's pretty much all over the internet. Certainly was one of the weak points of the Finalmouse, and it's nice to see here that they've changed this here. So we'll see how this performs going on. Other than that, there's no squeaks, rattles, creaks, anything. It is built really well. There's just that slight weakness in the side. The main mouse buttons here, there's a little bit of play left and right, but nothing any different to the Air 58. And to me, this is just a normal bit of play here. What I did see on the website was it comes with a 4-year warranty, which was limited, so I'm not sure exactly what that means here. I don't know if they're going to replace all the parts, but it'd be interesting to see if you've had any experience with them and you understand what that warranty will cover. So put it in the comments so other people will be able to see if they have any issues going forward. So if you're not familiar with my tests here and all my readings here across all these tests, check out the video in the description. That will explain what all my results mean and how you can interpret these results if you're not familiar with my videos here. So now we're into the first FPS latency test here. Like I said, this is a 1000 FPS camera here. I've picked CSGO and I've also now done Rainbow Six, which a lot of you have requested. So the average movement latency here for the Ultralight 2 here came in at 21 milliseconds, which puts it as the slowest mouse here for movement in Rainbow Six. The fastest mouse here was the XM1, which came in with an average of 11 milliseconds. In CSGO, the movement, it came with an average of 26 milliseconds, which again puts it as the slowest mouse here for movement in this test, with the fastest mouse coming in with the MK1 at 16 milliseconds. So the draw test here, where I test the sensor, well, this has got a 3360. It's limited to 500 Hertz out of the packaging here, but you can change this using the Dream Machine Pro S software. If you want to know how to do that, check out my Air 58 video. I've done it in there. So to keep this test in par with all my other tests, I put it to 1000 Hertz here. And to me, there was no issues. Again, the 3360 sensor here performed flawlessly. And in the SLAM test, no issues. So I've not shown this because, well, we've done a lot of the 3360 sensors. So in Kovaak here, as you know, my G Pro Wireless is the fastest one here. And I've managed to up the score to a sum of 98, an accuracy of 98, giving it a final score of 96. My G Pro Wireless has currently got the highest score in this Kovaak test for me. And the first Kovaak test here with the Ultralight 2 came in with a sum of 82, a final of 57.5 because of an accuracy of 70%, quite low accuracy here. The second run was a sum of 75, a final of 51.1 and an accuracy of 68%, getting even worse here. A third sum of 84, final of 64.1 and a 76% accuracy here. This gave it an average score in Kovaak of 57.6 and an average accuracy of 71.3. Which puts it as the worst performing mice so far in the Kovaak test. But in fairness, I haven't done many mice in Kovaak yet. I need to go through all my collection here and update these scores. But so far, the Ultralight is struggling here in some of these tests that we're performing. So moving on to the other test here, 3D Aim Test. And the first run here gave me a score of 115,561, an accuracy of 78. Second score was 122,529, giving an accuracy of 85%, so slightly better here. The third one was 115,758, giving it an accuracy of 78. So in 3D Aim, I was getting slightly higher accuracy here. My average score was 117,949, and my accuracy was 80%. This gives it a decent score in 3D Aim here, puts it in second place over the mouse that I've done in this newer 3D Aim test because they've just updated it. So not bad here, it did a little bit better. My accuracy could still be slightly better here though. So the button here, well, this is using Omron Chinese switches here, the 50 million click, they haven't changed that. And these are feeling nice and snappy here, as they did do in the Air 58. The side buttons though do still feel mushy here. Finalmouse could certainly improve this design. I'm not a fan really of these side buttons. The scroll wheel though is a nice change. It's got very, very light tactile feedback, this scroll wheel. I wouldn't say I was going to overshoot with any of the things, but it's certainly quite light. And what is nice, it's got quite a nice light actuation press. And again, I don't think I would accidentally press this, to be fair. So pre and post travel, well, there's very little pre-travel here, which none of the Finalmouse have suffered from anything major here. There's a little bit of post travel, but nothing too major, so no issues here whatsoever. So let's hear what these buttons sound like. So the human benchmark latency test here, and like we say, the element of human benchmarking here being me, but this came with an average of 169 milliseconds, which is decent. This puts it in third place, just ahead of the Air 58. So a decent result here in the human benchmark. Button latency test here using Blood PK. So the left button here came with an average of 165 milliseconds, and the right one came with an average of 165 milliseconds. So this puts it in kind of the middle of the pack here with 10 milliseconds behind the Air 58. So again, it's struggling here for button latency, as we've seen in the FPS camera as well. It's looking quite common here on the Ultralight 2. So we get the bump test here, and we run it against the current champion, which is the MK1, which beat the XM1 last week. So in the first test here, the left mouse button of the Ultralight 2 versus the right mouse button of the MK1, the Ultralight came ahead here. And in the second test, where it's the right mouse button of the Ultralight 2 against the right button of the MK1 came ahead here. So that puts them pretty even here. They both took one win here in this test. I'm going to keep the MK1 as the champion mouse here, because that's currently holding its position and the Ultralight 2 couldn't beat it. But it was a better result here from the Ultralight 2. So the 1000 FPS camera latency test here now, again in Rainbow 6. This is for the button firing rate latency, and the Ultralight 2 came in with an average of 28 milliseconds, which puts it the slowest so far again. The fastest being 24 milliseconds, which was the MK1. Then in CSGO, it came with an average of 32 milliseconds for the fire, which again makes it the slowest one in this one. And the fastest mouse in this is the Razor Viper with 23 milliseconds. So again, the Finalmouse struggling here in this latency test. So I did my clicks per second test here, and this came with a good score of 6.3 clicks per second, which puts it only just behind the Razor Viper, which could be a bit of error tolerance here. Razor Viper's got 6.4. So whipping out the force gauge meter here for the button actuation force, and the left front was 41 grams, the left middle was 53 grams, and the rear left was 122 grams. The right front was 41 grams, the middle was 61 grams, and the rear was 119 grams average. This gives me an average across the mouse button of 73 grams on the left and 74 grams on the right. So the Finalmouse here holds the lightest average here with the Sunset and the Air 58, and the Ultralight 2 here just came in behind the Air 58. So again, it's a very light button press actuation here. So side buttons, the front one came in with an average of 69, and the side back came in with an average of 62. These are on the lighter side here, the side buttons, but they're not as light as something like the G Pro Wireless. So scroll wheel press here came with an average of 149 grams here, which makes it the lightest scroll wheel we've tested. As I said, it did feel quite light here, and this result shows it is one of the lightest. Again, it's got 24 notches. They all seem to have 24 notches. There's maybe a few that don't, but most mice say have 24 notches. This is no exception. So the weight of this mouse, which is a big selling point, they say it comes in at 47 grams, which is really light here. We chucked on the scales and it came in with 52. 10%? I don't know. Everything else I've weighed comes in right, so it's certainly not 47 grams. Maybe in the teardown test, we're going to see that without the cable off it. I don't think we're going to see that. Maybe a gram here or two, but I don't know where they get the 47 grams from. Maybe without the buttons in it or something. And if you put it all together with the cable, it comes in at 82 grams. So running the mouse here and these glide tests across my G640, which is my daily here, so it's slightly worn. The NSW is 20 grams, the NFW is 23 grams, the RSW was 23 grams, and the RFW was 26 grams. This gives it an average of 23 grams, which is really light here. It puts it in third place. The first place is the MK1, which has got hyperglides on it, so they're not really stock in my opinion. And it's also a very, very light mouse with half of it missing off the rear. The second place one is the 3D printed G305, which again doesn't run standard skates here and probably isn't really a fair test. So it would put the Ultralight 2 as the fastest mouse here on the surface that we've tested. But again, it is quite a light mouse here. So let's get into the dimensions here. Well, the length of this is 116 millimeters. The width on the rear is 59 millimeters. The middle top width is 53. The middle is 56. The middle bottom is 53, and the front width is 58. The height here on the rear is 33 millimeters, the middle is 36, and the front is 19. The button width is 27 on the left in width, and on the right one is 27 as well. Nice and even here. The scroll wheel thickness is 7.9 millimeters, and the length is around 25 millimeters. So overall here, you can see that the Ultralight 2 compared to something like the G305. I'm going to compare it against the MM710 and the Model O-. I've got both of those. And the Ultralight 2 here is quite similar to the G305 in length. In fact, it's the same length with a few little dimension differences around the shape of it. So they're very similar in size. So the cable here, it's 2.2 millimeters thick. It's using the same cable here as was put on the Air 58 by the looks of it. It's very flexible here, but it's not as flexible as something like a paracord. Software here, well, Finalmouse haven't released any software with any of their mice, and this is no exception. It doesn't have any software. As we mentioned, you can use Dream Machine's software here to configure the sensor here, and you can also use something like Xmouse software to configure the buttons as well if you want to use the side buttons and reassign them, which is, well, pretty useful. So my conclusion here for the Ultralight 2 here for $120, I'd expect it to blow my mind, and it really hasn't done that. It's $30 more than the Air 58, and that was pretty expensive. They tried to give it something a little bit special with the Infinity skins, and to me just totally failed with that. I would not use Infinity skins, as I've said. I'd look at this mouse as a small version of the Air 58, and that's what I would use it as, or I'd get an Air 58. I wouldn't use Infinity skins and try and tweak your mouse with that. Some people might like it, but for me, no. On a lot of the tests here, the latency, the Ultralight 2 came in at one of the slowest mice here, which was a bit of a shame. I thought it'd be a little bit quicker, but in these latency tests, it was certainly struggling at the back of the pack there. It was nice to see they've got a decent scroll wheel on here. That's definitely an improvement here. So for me, this has got a decent glide here, but it is in a bit of a class of its own apart from the G305. It's going to be good to see how this glides against the MM710 and the Model O-. I mean, they're under half the price of this mouse. They're around $50 each, so it's going to be interesting to see how they compare when we do the reviews, which is coming very shortly. So as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you want to see, or go on my Beardedbob website, hit the vote button, check out all my stats on there, give me some ideas of what you want to see on that website, and I'll try and keep up with it, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.